Y'all, what up, what up, what up? If you don't know me, it's me. I'm L Teddy 27. I'm a teacher and I'm angry all the time. And this channel is all about my Angry Teacher Chronicles. Anyway, I'm starting a new segment on the Angry Teacher Chronicles for my fantasy football picks of the week. And each week, y'all, I'm over here getting dressed like I'm Mr. Rogers on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, whatever. But each week, I will give you must starts on in your fantasy league. I've been doing fantasy since 2000. Hell, that's 19 years. Damn it, that made me feel old. Anyway, back in the day, well, me and my buddies were doing it on paper and pen with our old fantasy league. I remember that first year. I didn't even know what fantasy football was. And a friend of mine asked me to be a part of their league. And I said yes, and the rest is history. We've been at it since 2000. I don't even know what my tie looked like. I'm not even looking at it. I'm doing this blind, but whatever. So self-tie bow tie is not supposed to be perfect. So I'll go with it however it is. And you get some of this. Anyway, y'all, we'll be doing this each week. What I will do is I will give you um, two quarterback must starts, three receiver must starts, three running back must starts, two tight end must starts, and one sleeper for each category. No, I will not be giving you a kicker or a defense because if you have more than one kicker or more than one defense on your fantasy team, then you obviously don't know a lot about fantasy, and the problem is you and not me. Anyway, so let's get right down to it, y'all. I'm over here getting all dressed for y'all and stuff, but I'm a teacher and I'm angry all the time, and these are my chronicles. Anyway, also at the end of each video each week, I will have L Teddy 27's fantasies where we will spotlight two or three hotties each week, but we'll get there later. Anyway, so let's get right down to it. Let's start off with the QBs. Quarterbacks for this week. My two quarterback must starts for this week is Kirk Cousins of the Minnesota Vikings at Green Bay, and Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens at home versus Arizona. Now, Kirk Cousins is due for a bounce back week. Kirk Cousins did not do well last week. Did not do well at all last week. So I figure Kirk Cousins to have a bounce back week. Green Bay pretty much decimated their defense over the last few years. And I guess they're expecting to have, Aaron Rodgers be the lone savior there in the offense because they're not doing anything on defense. So I expect Kirk Cousins to get off. You can, and with that, even though I don't have him on my list, you might want to start Stephon Diggs and some of the other, the Dalvin Cooks and the other people off that offense because I expect Minnesota to put up big numbers. I don't know that they'll win, but expect good numbers fantasy wise. And I should have said this already. This is for non-PPR leagues, standard non-PPR leagues. I may have some weeks where I do feature PPR leagues, but right now this week we're going to do standard leagues, non-PPR. So Lamar Jackson, I don't expect him to have the monster week he had last week against the Miami Dolphins and their brand of foolery down there. But I expect him to have another big week. He's at home. This is the home opener for him. Arizona does not have a great secondary. I mean, back in the day when they had Patrick Peterson and Tyrann Mathieu, they did have a great secondary, but not so much right now. And you're going to hear me sound like a broken record today because there are not a lot of NFL secondaries right now that are really like secondaries that make you go, ooh, I need to be afraid of them. Not a lot of great secondaries out there. But so I figured Lamar Jackson to have another good week this week. He's a must start. Must start Lamar Jackson at home for the Baltimore Ravens versus the Arizona Cardinals. Wide receiver, my sleeper this week for my quarterbacks is Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett, people are going to be down on him, and I'm not saying whether or not he's going to win the game. This is fantasy football, and I'm not a fan of the Indianapolis Colts. So whether or not the Indianapolis Colts win a single game is not my concern, or should it be your concern unless you're a Colts fan. But what you should be concerned about is whether or not he's going to put up good numbers. I expect, because he's at Tennessee this week, I expect him to do well at Tennessee. Tennessee, I don't expect them to, their running game to do well for Indianapolis, but I do expect for Jacoby Brissett to do well in the passing game this week. So start Jacoby Brissett of the Indianapolis Colts, now that he's the starter and Andrew Luck is retired. Wide receivers. My first wide receiver this week. This might be my last week mentioning him, because I'm not going to have picks that are must starts. Like, you'll never hear me say, "Oh, start Aaron Rodgers. Oh, start DeAndre Hopkins," because these are people who, if you're not starting them, clearly you don't know anything about fantasy football. Okay, so Sammy Watkins of the Kansas City Chiefs, depending on how long Tyreek Hill is injured and is out, or is at least injured, is the number one receiving option for Patrick Mahomes. And although they're away, they're at Oakland, he's going to get off. Will he have the same numbers that he had last week, where he had a monster week? I don't know. He might. So he's at this point, and this might, like I said, this might be my last week talking about him. You need to be starting Sammy Watkins. He is healthy, and he's had issues his first 2 years in the league, because he's had injury issues, but he is healthy. And if healthy, there's nothing to question. He's a must start. And if you're not starting him, I have him in 2 leagues. So definitely a must start. Allen Robinson of the Chicago Bears. They are at Denver. Denver hasn't had a good defense since Champ Bailey left. Let's just be honest. Not defense, but I'm saying a good secondary, I should say, since Champ Bailey left. Mitchell Trubisky needs a bounce back week. The Chicago Bears need a bounce back week. And this, I think, will they win the game? I don't know, but I expect them to put up numbers. They will put up points and numbers. They have to, because the citizens and fans in Chicago will burn down Soldier Field. Just telling you. So they need a bounce back week. I figure this to be that week, and I figure with Denver's secondary that has holes, gaping holes, I figured them to do well. Expect Allen Robinson to give you no less than 15 points this week. Dede Westbrook of the Jacksonville Jaguars versus and they're going to be at the Texans. I like this new, why can't I think of his name? The new quarterback, now that Nick Foles is hurt, the guy with the porn mustache. Damn it, I can't think of his name. Anyway, I have high hopes for him, and you may see me mention him in subsequent weeks here for must-start QBs. But while Houston is phenomenal with their run defense, they ain't doing a whole lot in the secondary over there down in Houston. So I expect this guy to, this new quarterback guy, who I can't think of his name. He's a rookie, I think. But I expect him to get it to Dede Westbrook, get it to him early and often. I expect them to get off this week. So look for that. I don't expect Leonard Fournette, the running back for Jacksonville, to do anything. All right, so my sleeper for this week is John Brown of the Buffalo Bills, formerly of the Arizona Cardinals, and I think he was with Baltimore Ravens last year as well. Anyway, expect him to get off. He's one of those short, speedy receivers in the vein of a Deshaun Jackson. Those receivers that may only have 4 or 5 catches, so you hate them for PPR, but are going to have like 120, 130 yards. So you love them in standard leagues. Expect him to have at least a touchdown. Expect at least, I expect him to at least have 75 yards and at least 1 touchdown, which would give you about 13 points. I figure him to give you close to about 15 fantasy points this week. 12 to 15 fantasy points this week. So John Brown is a sleeper this week. Running backs. Let's get to the running backs. Running backs, we got Josh Johnson of the Kansas City Chiefs versus, and they're at Oakland. Listen, y'all see I'm big on that Oakland KC game. This is a pick the over. This is the game, if you're betting on this game, go with the over. Because I expect this game to be 38 to 35 or 42-38 or something like that. Something just dumb, just some ridiculous score. I expect no defense at all. No defense at all. Do not expect anything from either one of these defenses. That was my help for those people who just need to know something about defense, Lord. Anyway, so expect Josh Jacobs of Kansas City to get off. Expect him to get off. Le'Veon Bell, while in years past he would never make this list because he would, when he was with the Steelers, he was always a must start, don't even question. Anything on the New York Giants football, not Giants, New York Jets football team, Jets, Jets, is not a must anything. If not, maybe a must overlook. So he does make the list this week. Expect him to do well against the Cleveland Browns. I said it, I called it with my friends. I knew the Cleveland Browns would be smoke and mirrors, and that's what they are, smoke and mirrors. I don't expect them to do anything. I would be, people are expecting them to go to the playoffs and make it and be competitive in the playoffs. I expect them to, I don't know that they'll even win their division. They might fight for a wild card, but I don't expect them to win their division. So he's at home versus Cleveland. Le'Veon Bell is. Expect him to do well. The quarterback and their receivers ain't doing nothing out there. So he's going to be the workhorse. And then we got Duke Johnson against Houston. Now, I know y'all going to tell me Duke Johnson is there with a stable of running backs. There's a whole bunch of them. What are you talking about? Oh, my God. Well, he is, to me, the number one running back if you want to go there. He's their number one option at running back. He is the one who they're going to feature. Now, there are other people that are taking touches away from him, and I know that. But expect them to have a big game in the running game. They're really trying to protect Deshaun Jack. I almost said Deshaun Jackson. But I can't think of this young man's name from Clemson. Deshaun Watson. Damn it, I almost forgot his name. They're really trying to protect Deshaun Watson. And I know their offensive line is awful there. But Duke Johnson is elusive enough and in his running style that he can do well. And let's be honest, while Jacksonville is one of the few teams with a great secondary, they ain't doing too well with their run defense. So expect Duke Johnson to do well. Now, my sleeper for this week comes from my favorite team, which is the San Francisco 49ers. My 49ers, I'm going to tell you to start Matt Breida. What? Damn it. I don't forgot. Me and names this week. I don't know. I should have wrote it down. I expect Matt Breida to get off because, damn it, why I can't think of this guy's name. Who was our starting running back last week that just got hurt? Our number one running back got hurt last week. So Matt Breida will get the start this week in San Francisco. Listen, Cincinnati Bengals ain't doing a whole lot defensively. So expect Matt Breida to get off. He will help with the play act. I mean, they're going to need to get the run started early and often to help Jimmy Garoppolo with the play action option that he's going to have. So expect Matt Breida to get off. Expect him to get off this week. He's our sleeper. Tight ends, must start. Evan Engram of the New York Giants, and he's at home against the Buffalo Bills. Now, Evan Engram, I did on one of my live chats on my channel here, and I did some fantasy stuff on that one. He was my tight end sleeper. And he's going to probably end up not being on this list very much longer because I can see him becoming a must-start every week tight end option. So expect him to get off. Buffalo, ain't a lot going on up there in Buffalo on offense or defense. So expect Evan Engram to do well. He's really the one saving grace for Manning, Eli Manning, because Sterling Shepard just got hurt. So, and then Darren Waller of the Oakland Raiders against Kansas City. I told y'all, start anybody on Oakland or anybody on Kansas City. And I like Darren Waller of the of the Oakland Raiders versus the Kansas City Chiefs. The middle of that field is going to be open often because they're going to try to stop the receivers. So I figured the middle of the field. They're not going to respect the running game for either side. So I expect the middle of the field to be pretty open. Sleeper tight end for this week is none other than, I almost said Vernon Davis of the Washington Redskins, you know, Vontae is his brother who ceremoniously quit on his team during halftime last year. Lord, that was a whole mess. Just a whole ass mess. Anyway, um, Vernon Davis is going to do well this week. Expect him to get you about 12 points. 10 to 12 points for Vernon Davis this week. And for a tight end, that's great. That's all you can. If a tight end gets you double digits on your fantasy team, you are happy with that. So I expect Vernon Davis to do that this week. Even though they're playing the Dallas Cowboys, that's a division game. The Redskins and the Cowboys play each other tight anyway. They respect each other. You can throw the records out when they play each other. So I'm not saying they'll win the game, that the Redskins will win the game, but I do expect Vernon Davis to get you some quality fantasy tight end points. All right, so now to my favorite part of each week, which will be El Teddy 27's fantasies. My fantasies for this week. So this week we just have two. Week 2, we got 2. All right, so this week I have a running back and I have a receiver. Here's what you want to do, okay? You want to put their name, you want to, open up your little Google search engine, click on the images tab. So you're doing like Google image search. You want to put in their name, and after their name, you want to put in shirtless as in SHIRTLESS, all one word, shirtless. And then you want to click the search button and get your whole life. Just get your whole life, because these are hotties. Anyway, my first one is Ameer Abdullah, formerly of the Detroit Lions, now with the Minnesota Vikings. And I'm going to tell you how to spell his name, so when you're typing it in your search engine, you type it correctly. That's first name Ameer, last name Abdullah, Ameer Abdullah. He's with the Minnesota Vikings now, formerly with the Detroit Lions. Put his name in, shirtless, get your whole life. Google image search. You can thank me later. Thank me in the comments. And our second fantasy of the week is none other than Juju Smith-Schuster of the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's Juju, Juju. Last name SMITH-SCHUSTER, Juju Smith-Schuster. Type in his name, type in shirtless afterwards, and get your whole life. Oh, there's a very good image of him that you'll find pretty quickly. He's like in this waterfall and things. Water is falling. It's a fantasy. Anyway, those are my El Teddy 27's fantasies of the week. We'll be doing this each week. I apologize that I don't have all my pictures. Normally I would have names and pictures for you to see of all of these individuals, but I'm having technical difficulties with my internet this week and with my computer. So we are going to work this out as best we can. But don't worry. Hopefully next week we'll be back up and at them. Same time, same place. We'll get you going with your fantasy leagues. I do plan to have this out before 11:30 of every week, which means that at least I'll have taped it before 11:30 every Sunday morning, which means that please make adjustments to it and check the web, because sometimes there may be play. You know that 11:30 is when a lot of players are out. They declare who's out and who's going to play, who's active and who's inactive for each team that's playing at 1 o'clock. So make adjustments if you find out somebody that I told you this week is actually inactive. All right, that's all I got for y'all. We'll be right back here next week, y'all. Take off the bow tie. We'll be right back here next week, y'all, for week 3. I'll check y'all then. Deuces, we out.